Hi, everyone, and welcome to the last session of our Pear Deck Tech Tuesday. I have the session link pulled up right here for you if you need to access that. bit.ly/Pear Tech TUES. That's going to let you get into this slide presentation that I have been using to share the videos from each of our sessions and also to provide links to any resources that you may want access to. So we are in session 4, our final session, where we're going to be talking about building vocabulary with Flashcard Factory, which is an application built into the Pear Deck platform. But if you missed any of our first videos, you can access those here too. So if you need to see that getting started, utilizing the resource library, or some ideas for how to really boost 4C thinking in your classroom, you can always go back and watch those first before participating in the Flashcard Factory video. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get us going. So for today, we're going to be touching on just a few things so that you have a good understanding of what Flashcard Factory is, why it's powerful, and then we'll learn how to actually build flashcards within the Flashcard Factory with your students. And kind of talk through that process, and then also look at the process of exporting the flashcards and what you can actually do with them once you have them created. All right, so that being said, we'll go ahead and start with this why of Flashcard Factory. And as I'm kind of talking about the why, I'm going to go ahead and start navigating myself to the Pear Deck platform so we can start kind of exploring how we set Flashcard Factory up. Flashcard Factory is a really powerful tool that you can use through Pear Deck to obviously build vocabulary with your students. And it's really powerful actually in a lot of ways. For one, they're getting to practice that vocabulary in a digital way, which is very fun, which of course is engaging and going to increase their interest and up the amount of learning that's happening. But also, it really allows a lot of collaboration for your students. It helps them to build on their communication skills because they're going to be working together to not only construct the flashcards for vocabulary practice, but they'll also work together to sort of approve and give positive criticism on which of the cards actually provide good examples of that vocabulary term and which ones need to be kind of rethought through. And then from there, it gives students the opportunity to take a resource that they actually created themselves in order to have some really meaningful practice. And it's also great for any subject area. So, I mean, we know vocabulary is a foundation in absolutely any topic that you're learning about. So, whether it's vocabulary within a particular story, or if it's mathematical vocabulary, science, social studies, there is going to be some way in which using Pear Deck Flashcard Factory can help benefit your instruction. All right, so that being said, I'm at the Pear Deck Launchpad. And I'm going to start off with looking at the different ways that you can access or build your actual list of vocabulary terms before you go into Flashcard Factory and then create those cards with your students. So there's a few different ways that you can do this. So you can build a list from scratch. If you have a list of terms and definitions that you know you're wanting to use and you want to go ahead and just build that list from scratch, then when you're here at the platform, if you go over and click on Flashcard Factory under Practice, that's going to take you to this screen where you can actually go in and input terms and definitions there, and you can build an entire list that way. Another thing that you can do, if you have terms that you know you want to include, but you don't have the definition ready to go ahead and copy and paste over, you can also use this little tool right here, and Pear Deck will actually look up definitions for you and provide those for the terms that you're listing. So that is one option to build your list from scratch. But I would say it's worth it to take a look at what's already available in the Content Orchard and in the district library before building a list completely from scratch, because you may find something already pre-made that you can use or that you can at least use part of. So I'm going to first start by going into the content orchard, and remember that's where all of the Pear Deck created content lives. So once we're in Content Orchard, you can scroll down just a little and you're going to find a collection called Flashcard Factory. When you open that up, you'll notice they have a ton of pre-made vocabulary lists here for you that you can use that fit into all different topic areas. So you can kind of peruse through what they have, or you can also come up here and search for something in particular. You can even go over to the filter and you can select particular standards or filter down by subject area or grades to see which vocabulary lists they have that are already pre-made. Another thing that you can do when you go in our district library, there are also a lot of Flashcard Factory lists that have already been made by our teachers in Madison City, which is really cool because that means most of these are linked with our actual curriculum that we're using. So you'll notice as you're looking through, there's a lot of open court vocabulary lists that have already been created. You can see some big ideas. There are even some that link with science. Those are some newer ones that looks like have been put in. So there's a lot of pre-made lists that already live here. So just to make sure before you build a vocabulary list from scratch that you take a look in the content orchard in the district library and make sure that you're not overlooking something that might already be pre-made and available for you. Also, it's good to know that you can open up a list and then actually edit it. So if there is a list that Pear Deck created, but you don't want absolutely all of those terms, or you want to kind of edit the definitions or add new ones or take some of them off, you can edit any list that you open up. You don't have to use it exactly as it is. To make it a little bit easier for us, I am going to open up this one, which is Open Court Unit 5 Lesson 6 for 2nd grade, which Miss King made for us. So I'm going to go ahead and use that one to make things a little easier. So once you've selected a list that you're going to use, you're going to choose Copy to Google Drive. And that's going to bring you back to that screen like we were looking at before, where we have each of our terms and definitions listed. So here I could add more if I wanted. I can edit them. I can take some off. But I'm good with all these. So I'm going to go ahead and play Flashcard Factory, which is going to move me on to the next step. So I'm going to click that blue button here. Okay, so it's going to say make sure that your browser window is visible on your classroom projector screen. Now, unfortunately, since I had to pre-record this session, I'm not going to be able to have you guys play. It would be more fun if I could have you kind of play along, but that's not going to be an option for us. So I'm going to kind of open up a Safari window so that I have two browsers open, and then that way I'll log in as a student so you can kind of see what it looks like both from a student view and from the teacher view. So I'll say, okay, I see it on the projector. This is how they're going to join. So very similar to the way that they would join any other Pear Deck session. So I'm going to go over here. Let's copy that code. So the students are going to joinpd.com. Also, just a helpful hint, this Join PD icon is linked on Clever too. So that's another fast way to get students there, is to just tell them to go to Clever and click the Pear Deck icon. Okay, on my student screen, I've gone to joinpd.com and I'm going to enter in that session code. And I haven't started, so I've got the letter from the foreman, which tells me what my tasks are going to be for the day, but the teacher has not actually started this session, so they're just going to be stuck on this screen until I move them forward. So you can see here it's showing me that I have one student who has arrived, and that's the only student that I'm going to have. So I'm going to go ahead and clock in so you can see what the next step looks like. So it's going to take your students in and it's going to automatically put them into two different groups so they can kind of work as teams. So you'll have your day shift and your night shift. You can also click here to shuffle the teams up if you want. And then notice over here, I'm try to move this thing down. It won't let me. Notice over here you've got your code, just in case you have students who missed that code and still need to log in. It's going to stay right there so that you can see it. All right, so when you're ready, you're going to click Let's Play. Let's see what it looks like on my screen. For the student, it's just telling me I'm on my own today. I'm the only one that's on my night shift team. And I can choose that I'm ready to go. And it shows that it's waiting for my teacher to begin. And I'm going to choose Let's Play. Now, when I click Let's Play, it's going to take us into the factory. So now we're in the production phase. So this is where students are going to actually create their flashcards. So I'm going to go back onto my student screen so you can see what it looks like over there. So you can see it brought up a term for me, draw an example of tolerant, and then it gives me what that definition is right there, respectful of others and their ideas. You can see in their little workspace down here, they can choose different colors. They can change the size of their brush. They've got an eraser, a line tool, and then also a text tool that they can use to even add text in their image. I'm going to do like a good example and a bad example so that in a minute when we go to quality control, you can kind of see what happens as we're talking about and either accepting or rejecting the cards that have been made. So I'm going to, for this one, let's just do a big sad face. And then I'm done drawing. Write your answer here. So it's going to also ask me to use the word in an example sentence. So I'm just going to say I am tolerant. All right, so I'm saying looks good. I'm happy with that. All right, so now let's do a better example. So for this one, we've got compassion. So let's do, well, let's still have a person. Change to red, do some little hearts. All right, let's say I'm done with my drawing. And then for my sentence, I'm going to say it's important to show kindness and compassion to others. Okay, I'm done and looks good. I'm happy with it. Now, if we come, and it's going to just keep giving me more terms. But if you come back over to the production screen, you're going to see how the cards are kind of falling onto the assembly line as we're creating them. So, normally with your class, you would have several more cards here, but it's just me working on these. So I'm going to go ahead and move forward to the next phase, to quality control. Now, in a classroom setting, it's kind of up to you as far as what you think makes sense for the timing of how you would actually use this. So it might take, if you're having your students really think and do a really good job with creating these cards, it might take them a little while in this production phase to actually create them. So it might be worth spending maybe a portion of your lesson one day creating the cards, and then a portion the next day going into quality control and talking about the cards that were created, and then maybe the next day using them for some practice, or just splitting it up throughout the day, whatever you think will work well for your students. So I'm going to move to the quality control phase so you can see what that looks like. So this is what it looks like on the teacher screen now that I've created those cards. And then on the student screen, it's just going to pull up the card for me to see really clearly on my screen as well. Now notice that in our quality control phase, we have a red X, which we're going to use for our cards that we want to stamp to be returned, and then a green check for our cards that we're good to go with, that we think give a really good example of that term and do a really good job using it in context in a sentence. Now, another thing to notice is that there is no student name here. So that's another great thing about using Pear Flashcard Factory is it's anonymous, so we don't have to have students feeling uncomfortable that their name is plastered up there, especially if it's um, a less desirable example that we're looking at. So it really kind of gives that opportunity for students to communicate and talk about why one particular example might not be as good as another one in a really safe environment where there's no judgment, and it's just really more about growth and learning from one another, and speaking kindly to one another about that kind of thing. So for this one, I think our class is obviously going to decide that this is not the best example to help people understand what the word tolerant means. So I'm going to use, after my class and I have all talked together about this, you might have a voting system, some kind of system where students can share their opinions and why they think you should or should not accept a card. Then you're going to make that determination together. So we're going to stamp that one to be returned. And then I'm going to click into the next one. And let's say we've talked and we agree that this is a pretty good example of the word compassion. So we're going to click that check mark and approve that one. Now, since those were the only two cards that we had to be approved or returned, it went ahead and sent me to that last phase, to the shipping stage. But I just want to make sure that you do know that you can actually come over here and you can go back to the production phase or to that quality control phase whenever you need to. So I can go and click back into production if I want, and that's going to send my students right back to production phase. So if I want them to go back in and kind of work again on some of those vocabulary flashcards, then I can go back into the production stage with them and do that. But let's go to the shipping phase. So now that I have completed my quality control and we've reviewed the cards, decided which ones we're going to keep and which ones we're going to send back, now I can do whatever I want to with them. So there's a couple of things that you can actually do with your cards. So you have the option to print them. So when I click that print set, it's going to allow me to print off those copies of the flashcards. So obviously there's only one here right now. That's because we only approved one, but you would have several more than that if it was for your actual class. So with that, you can print them off, and then I can think of lots of ways that students could use those just to practice in partners or individually. They could be used in a small group setting. It could be a station or a center, something that you do during morning work time, or something that's displayed in the classroom. Lots of different ways that you could use them for meaningful practice if you print them off. Another really cool thing that you can do is you can export them to GimKit. So if you haven't used GimKit before, it is a formative, like a gamified formative assessment platform that you can access through your browser. And it's a really good tool to review with your students in a way that, like I said, is gamified and very fun and engaging for them. But also, it's got a lot of great features built into it as well to allow students to track their progress and their growth um, as they're learning, and then also for you as a teacher to be able to get that quick formative assessment of where your students are, what they know, what they still need to learn, and then help you to make those instructional decisions moving forward after gathering that information. So if you decide that that's what you want to do, you can click that export to GimKit option. It's going to ask me to name my set. Got a couple practice names in there, so I'm going to call this one practice 3. And then I'm going to export it to GimKit. So it's giving me a link that I can use, or if I'm ready to use it right now, I can go ahead and just click and go to that set. You can also use that link to share with your students if you're wanting to let them play individually on GimKit instead of playing a class game. But I'm going to click Play Live. And then from there, I can choose any of these games and get that game started for my students. So once I click that game and click continue, it is going to take my students in, and we can practice vocabulary using our cards that we created within a really fun game online, which is another really cool thing that you can do with that. And just so you know, let's say you guys finished your cards last week, but today is when you're wanting to actually go in and practice that. So I can go back. I'm just going to go to peardeck.com. I can go back to that session. So I can go back to that session whenever I want to, just like we talked about um, in our first session. You can go in here to session history, and it's going to allow me to go back into any of these Flashcard Factory sessions, just like I could with a Pear Deck session that I'm using with a Google slide. I can actually go in and edit the name of the session, view who was there, or archive it. But I can also just click back into it and open it back up if I want to go back in and then open up that GimKit game from there. All right, guys, so that is the end of our final Pear Deck Tech Tuesday session on using Flashcard Factory with your students. So hopefully in this session and in the earlier ones, you were able to build your confidence in using Pear Deck and all the awesome things that it has to offer. I hope that you'll start utilizing that with your students to amplify that learning that's happening in your classroom. And then also don't forget, you do need to make sure once you have completed all of the sessions that you're planning to attend within the Pear Deck Tech Tuesday, you need to make sure you come and click here and that you complete that form, checking all the sessions that you attended so that you can receive that half hour of credit for each of the sessions that you took part in. All right, guys, and if there is anything at all that you still need help from me with, if there's something we talked about that you're still just not super confident in, or a question that you have about any of the things that we discussed, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Thanks.